Today I have the pleasure of welcoming back not one, but two awesome writers, publishers of their own respective websites, and prepping specialists. I have the honor of speaking with Miss Tess Pennington of Ready Nutrition and Miss Daisy Luther, the Organic Prepper. Welcome, Tess and Daisy.
Thank you.
And my name is Rory. Appreciate you tuning into the Daily Coin. And please visit our main website, thedailycoin.org. And don't forget to subscribe, share, comment, and follow us on the various social media outlets like Twitter and Facebook and all that stuff. And Daisy, let's just jump right in. I want to start with you. And with the fires raging all across California, I wanted to start the conversation with fire safety. The weather is changing, and people nationwide will be cleaning out their fireplace, wood stoves, propane fireplaces, and the like. How would a person prepare for a fire that is not necessarily at their home, but say a regional disaster situation that creates fire in their neighborhood, or the house next door catches fire? What should I do to be better prepared for that kind of a situation? And Tess, please feel free to jump in at any point.
Well, the thing with fire is that there isn't a lot that you can do to directly protect your home if there's a wildfire or something like that. Obviously, you want to have brush cut down. You don't want to have vegetation around your house that can easily spark. But there's really a limit to what you can do to protect your property. Your most important priority in a situation like this is to have your bags ready and be ready to evacuate at the drop of a hat. I live in a wooded area, and if there is a fire in my general vicinity, we immediately make certain that we've got all of our documents out of the safe. We've got all the important things that we might need right at the door. We've got pet carriers because we have cats and dogs and stuff like that. And we can be out the door in less than 5 minutes. And it's vital that you be ready to evacuate, because there's not anything you can do to protect your home when a fire like that is coming. You know, for little things like inside your house, fire extinguishers are great, but it's your lives that are the most important things. And sometimes you see people saying, oh, I'm not going to leave my house. It's just not worth burning to death or putting your children at risk. So really, I believe preparing to evacuate is the only thing that you can do in these types of situations, aside from keeping your property low risk.
I just wanted to add to that, I really do believe that you can prepare your neighborhood and your community for a fire, but it really does start with your home, making sure that you're prepared and that you have everything that you need. Daisy did hit on some very good points about preparing your home before a disaster strikes. And this is very similar to preparing for a hurricane. You want to gather any tools or lawn chairs, things like that laying around the yard. You want to clean up the brush, make sure everything is low. You can also connect your garden hose to outdoor water faucets and fill pools and hot tubs, garbage cans, any large water containers that can fill water, and you can set those strategically around your home. You can also place lawn sprinklers on the roof and just saturate your roof as much as you can. A lot of the issues that people have in wooded area is the large overgrowth of trees and, dried or dead branches that are just kind of, laying around. So you want to make sure that those are out of the way. Another thing that you can do to protect your home, if the fire is definitely coming your way, or if you're forced to evacuate, you want to turn off your gas. And any fuel lines that you have around the home, because that will help further protect it. But I do want to agree with Daisy, and the best thing that you can do is have a plan. The firefighters, when you're evacuating, they usually give you 5 to 10 minutes warning. So you're not going to have time in that time frame to prepare an evac bag, get the important documents, make sure your kids have everything that they need. That's essential because this does take time. It does take planning. So you want to do this ahead of time. And this would be a great way to ensure that your neighbors are prepared as well, as to give them a checklist of things that they're going to need. Let them know that the fire's coming. Let's get something together so that we're all safe. Basically create a fire watch for the community. But, you want to have everything in place so that if a firefighter does come to your home and says that you need to leave, you will have everything and you can leave ahead of time so that you're not stuck in traffic or, in the chaos of people trying to evacuate.
What about?
Actually, can I add 2 things to this?
Please.
They usually do a voluntary evacuation before the mandatory evacuation. My vote is if there's voluntary evacuation, get out. Don't wait for it to become mandatory because that's how you get stuck in the traffic that Tess was talking about. But the second thing, I've been reading about this fire in California. This regards putting the sprinklers on your roof and all that kind of stuff. Actually, the firefighters there, and maybe it's because California is in such a drought, have asked people not to do that because it reduces the water pressure that they're able to get to fight the fire. So I think that might differ with every situation, and it may just be related to the drought in California. But you should probably look into what your local area recommends regarding soaking down your house, because if you leave your sprinklers on, they ended up having to cut the water lines to some of the houses to shut off their water so that they could get more water pressure themselves.
Goodness. Now, what about sand? Now, you mentioned, taking care of clearing away some of the brush that's immediately at the house. I mean, would sand serve any purpose? I mean, as far as like coating your roof in the type of situation that you're talking about? I mean, I don't know how practical that is, or having a barrier of sand around the perimeter of your property.
I know that they dig big ditches around the homes, but I don't know about sand. It's an inferno when this is going on, so I don't know if sand would legitimately slow it down at all. Well,
outside of California, I think that getting up on the roof and taking a lawn sprinkler or two, that's a great idea.
Yeah,
that really is. Because I mean, like I said, if you've got a situation like with Katrina or one of the other regional disasters where you've got building where people haven't shut the gas off, they haven't turned off their propane tanks, all of a sudden you've got a couple of explosions, and then you've got, the neighborhood is catching fire, and that's really the angle that I'm looking at, not so much as what's happening in California, because that's really a regional situation, and to look at it more on a larger scale, what people are going to have to deal with more regionally, and outside of California, outside of the fire zones,
right?
That sprinkler, that really is. I love that. So thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
That's worth the call right there.
Yeah, and it's interesting because if you look back in history, in almost all disasters, it's fire in the aftermath of the disaster that causes all the problems.
Yes.
Like the San Francisco earthquake where the cow kicked over the lantern.
Yep. And the whole thing burned down.
Yep.
I mean, it wasn't the earthquake that caused the most damage. It was the fires that were burning out of control. Tess. In our last conversation, transportation and Ebola were covered in depth, and I actually want to continue that conversation, but with a slight twist. And what type of boots or walking shoes would be best for an SHTF scenario. And as we've previously discussed, most of the people listening to this interview live in densely populated areas, so it'd probably be a tight squeeze getting out. And a bicycle or adult tricycle may be appropriate, but I'm not exactly sure. And what should a person consider as a main form of transportation for 2, 3, or more people? And Daisy, please chime in as you see fit.
Okay.
I think Daisy should go first on this.
Okay.
For alternative transportation? We aren't big transportation people. Basically our plan is more to go on foot than to use transportation.
Okay.
We have pared down what we would take with us, and we would just backpack out. I hate to rely on having something additional like that. So we don't have any bicycles or anything like that. We do have a wheelbarrow, but I don't really see me pushing that out of the mountains. So no, our plan is to backpack it out.
Okay. So what type of boots would be appropriate for your situation where you have more of a rugged terrain versus more of a city or an urban setting?
Well, I have a couple of pairs of boots that I really like. I have some Columbia hiking boots. Those are my favorite because they're like ultra comfortable, and I've put a lot of miles on those boots. They're really good because they've got soles that grip really well. I've also got a pair of Alte tactical boots, which are a lot more heavy duty, but because of that, they're heavier footwear, so you get tired a little bit easier, especially if you're not accustomed to wearing things like that. I think the most important thing with your footwear is to have worn it before you're evacuating in it. You don't want to put shoes on and end up half a mile down the road with a blister starting up, or realize, hey, these really hurt my feet, or my toe touches the end, or whatever. So whatever shoe you end up getting, it needs to be a shoe that you use frequently. And that's the same with all of this stuff regarding bugging out on foot. You have to test your gear. You have to know that you're able to carry the weight that is in your pack. And the only way you can know that is by doing so frequently. At least once a month, we go hiking with our backpacks. So, 15 pounds for my daughter and 20 pounds for me.
Wow.
And if it's not within that weight range, it doesn't go in. Because I know that I can go 5 to 10 miles without just, killing myself with that amount.
And that's about all a person's going to be able to hike in a day anyway, right? About 10 miles?
Yeah, you could go further. Because you should be able to do 10 miles in 3 hours. So it really depends on your fitness level and what kind of shape you're in.
I just wanted to add with the boots, I know I did a lot of research, and, I trusted all of these experts. You should get this boot. This is the best. And I got it, and it was too heavy for my foot. I've got just a foot issue, and I've got arthritis. So I have to be very careful about the types of shoes that I get. And I think that there's a lot of people out there with just conditions that they have to keep in mind. But some of the best boots that I have found, and that you might want to consider, because if you're bugging out by foot, you could be going into rugged terrain. So you want to make sure that the boots that you have, sometimes a lot of the boots have Gore-Tex lining. So it helps keep water out, and it also allows perspiration to escape out of it. You also want some really good, very well-grooved soles, or the shoes on the areas on the bottom, so that it can kind of grab the mud and grab the terrain and help you, position your foot correctly without injuring it. So, you definitely want to keep these types of things in mind. And also, there's ways to winterize your boots to help protect them from the outside elements. So, as Daisy said, you want to practice using your gear, but you also want to practice in different temperatures and different types of weather-related things, so that that you're going to be protected from the elements. So, as far as bugging out because of a pandemic with Ebola, especially, the first thing that I would want to really stress to people, especially who are in the city, is to have a plan. And like Daisy said, with the wildfires, if try and bug out before there's a mandatory evacuation, because that is just going to cause a lot of undue stress. If you feel like there's an issue and that you need to evacuate and to keep your family safe, then you need to trust your gut and go with that and leave as soon as you feel it necessary. So that's just my advice on that, because I really do believe that a lot of people are, rightly concerned over this. It's such a scary issue, and it's affecting the entire world. So, get your plan in place now. Figure out where you're going to go. Ensure that you have all the supplies that you need, and get there as safe as you can.
I want to add about the boots. I think for this type of boot, it's really, really important to get boots that go above your ankles for ankle support, because it's so easy on rugged terrain to twist an ankle, and then you are in big trouble, especially if there's a natural disaster approaching. If you sprain your ankle and suddenly you can't walk at a decent pace, you're going to be in big trouble.
I would also add to in your bug out bags to get some blister protection, because that is going to be a very painful walk if you've got a blister.
Oh, yeah.
And it can become infected very quickly too, because of the bacteria on your feet and the perspiration. So
as far as like an ankle high, like a hybrid shoe or a hybrid boot, if you will, that's kind of a cross between a walking shoe and a hiking boot.
Yeah, I just like pure hiking boots. They go usually an inch or two above your ankle. Gives a lot more support.
Even for an urban setting?
I would, just because, you can twist an ankle anywhere. And if there's like lots of debris around, you're even more likely to twist an ankle. So I think that ankle support is vital.
All right. That makes sense. Tess, you were touching on the Ebola, and that's where we're headed to next. And that's still creating problems all over the world. And thanks to an article that's recently penned by Daisy, we just learned about a ship docking in Louisiana from Liberia, which is where the current outbreak originated. And there were several people that were sick that were on board. But the CDC says, it's okay, don't worry. And should we be worried? And what should we, or how should we prepare for medical martial law? And if so, outside of our everyday preps, what should be at the top of our priority list regarding staying safe? What herbs or vitamins should a person add to their preps in order to stave off contracting Ebola? Daisy, please chime in.
I feel like the main goal of CDC is just to prevent hysteria from happening. I think that Ebola it's growing worse, and I think that the world governments waited too long to act on this, and it's gotten out of hand. Because now they're starting to send troops over to help out with the issue, when they should have done this months ago. Just today, Sierra Leone has now declared medical martial law to try and prevent Ebola from going any further. So, this is the next step to a societal breakdown, in my opinion. They cannot control the virus. People are not going to sit in their homes for a long period of time until this blows over. So I do believe that this is something that we should all be concerned with. And I honestly think that it's getting to a point, as Daisy indicated in her article, that, America is not going to be untouched by this. So, in my opinion, I feel that people should start preparing now. They should get some pandemic preparedness supplies, get the Tyvek suits that cover from head to toe, get fog-proof goggles. I would also, if you can afford it, I would recommend the N100 respirator masks. I actually just recently talked with Dr. Bones and Nurse Amy at a preparedness expo in Houston, and I was asking him what the difference between if there was a difference between the N95 and N100. And of course, he said that it would filter out that 0.5 amount of extra particles the N100s would. He said that he would feel comfortable using an N95 respirator mask in the event of an Ebola epidemic. So he said that he would suggest that to anyone, and they're also more economically priced. But my family has the N100s. I don't want to take any chances with my family's well-being, especially with this kind of horrible, horrible virus. So I would highly recommend people getting their pandemic kits together, invest in duct tape, invest in foot booties, respirators, the Tyvek suits. Just prepare for your community, having an outbreak, because if something like this happens, no one's going to want to go outside. No one's going to want to take the chance of coming into contact with something like this.
What about herbs or vitamins? Is there anything that you guys have found that would be helpful to keeping it at bay or keeping it out of your system?
Well, I know Daisy and I are pretty big proponents of elderberry extract. I absolutely love this little berry, and it's such a great little natural remedy that you can use. But from my research, I haven't really found any natural remedies. Maybe Daisy could shed light on this if she's heard anything.
I actually have to agree with you. I really think that you have to just avoid contracting it by avoiding exposure. Obviously, the healthier you are, the better your immune system is going to be. So it's really important to preemptively get your immune system all boosted up with good nutrition. But as far as treating something like this herbally or counting on some kind of herbal preventative, there's all sorts of stuff going around the internet about, colloidal silver and different kinds of herbs and high dose vitamin C. I honestly would not put 100% of my faith in that. My personal plan with my family is, if it gets within 100 miles, if there is a confirmed case within 100 miles, we're not going out of the house. We are staying home until at least a month after the last case in our area, because that's the only way to keep from contracting a disease in a pandemic, and not just Ebola. It doesn't really matter what the pandemic is. Social distancing is the absolute best way to avoid contracting an illness.
Okay. Now, you had mentioned the N95 and the N100 mask, Tess,
Mm-hmm.
and are those reusable? I'm forced for whatever reason to leave my home, and I've got the hazmat suit on, I've got the goggles, I've got everything taped down, got the N95, N100 mask on. Am I going to be able to reuse that mask, or is everything going to have to be discarded at that point and start over with new?
You need to discard it.
Leaving it outside the house and not not coming into the home with any of that material.
Yeah, what I would do with the masks especially, you want to change your masks at least twice a day. This is something that I asked Dr. Bones and Nurse Amy about as well. So I feel very comfortable with their opinion on that, since they're surgeons and a nurse practitioner. So, but they indicated twice a day. I mean, this is a pretty crazy virus. It could be airborne. You don't really know too much about this, except it's a pretty nasty little thing going around. So what I would do in your home, if the Ebola has entered your community, I would create a room where you can take off, if you go out into the community with your suits on. When you go back into your home, I would get a lot of plastic sheeting and duct tape and create a sterile environment where you can take this off, leave it at the door, walk into the sterile environment and clean yourself, and, go through the proper precautions before you step foot into your home.
Okay.
Almost like a decontamination room, like they have at the CDC.
That's so really leaving your home is not a very good option.
No.
I'm Daisy. I plan on staying in, and that's the whole reason why we have prepared and really asked people to prepare for so long. I mean, this message isn't something of hysteria. It's common sense and practicality. And, there are events that are happening in this world that are outside of our control. Yeah. And the only thing that we can control is how prepared we're going to be to face that issue and survive it.
The other thing you have to think about is, should it come down to a situation like this, you can't 100% rely on the fact that your utilities and public services like that are going to continue working. So that's a secondary plan that you have to have. How are you going to stay in your home if the water's not running and the lights aren't on? So you need to have backup for all of those things that we just take for granted.
Everybody get everything in order, because apparently there's some people that have landed in Louisiana that aren't of the healthiest nature. So, and on that cheery note, Daisy, with winter just around the corner, what seasonal preps, if any, should a person focus on? If someone is new, say they're just getting started, should the newbie be focused on winter items, or where would a good starting point be for day one? And once again, Tess, please feel free to jump in at any point.
Well, depending on your climate, that's going to have a lot to do with your preparedness. But if you are in a place that gets cold, like drops below the freezing point, you need to figure out how you're going to keep warm in the event of a power outage. And this isn't some really intense conspiracy theory, because power outages happen all of the time. They happen because there's an ice storm or a windstorm or heavy snow that makes the power lines fall. Power outages in the winter are really dangerous, because if you don't have a backup heating method, you could freeze to death. The secondary thing is, if your backup heating method isn't safe, you could die of carbon monoxide poisoning. So you need to also have battery operated carbon monoxide detectors in your home.
I wanted to add to Daisy's information and just say, in addition to preparing your home with everything that it needs to sustain yourself for a given period of time, you also want to consider preparing your vehicle and winterizing that, because there are times when, these storms kind of happen out of nowhere. It's very erratic weather patterns, and you want to make sure that if you're stuck in your car, you have an emergency kit in there that can help with those cold climate areas. So what I would suggest is to have a shovel, a flashlight, the powered radio, a way to communicate. And, you want to have food for 3 days. And a lot of people, with the Mountain House foods and the freeze-dried foods and that sort of thing, they keep them in their car for a season. because after that, because of the different exposures to different temperatures in the climate, it can affect the food. But, definitely have some food in there. I would suggest freeze dried and just have water there and a way to heat the water up, or some MREs. You also should consider having paracord, road salt, even emergency flares so that you can flag someone down if need be. So, you also want to prepare your car and your home for those types of events.
Since most of us work outside of the home.
Right.
And we don't want to wind up like what happened in Atlanta last year. So
yes,
you're sleeping in the stoop or sleeping in your car because people are.
There was a case last year also of a family that had a car accident in Nevada and ended up stranded out in the wilderness for 3 or 4 days in freezing temperatures. And the dad of the family was a hunter, so he was pretty good with like wilderness survival stuff. And he kept 5 kids and his wife alive. I think it was 5 kids. It was a bunch of anyway, for 3 days in the wilderness in a Jeep.
Wow.
It's something, and I think that a lot of people don't realize how much time they spend away from their home, and I think that everyone should have a bag of seasonal clothes in your car in case something like this happens. So, my family's got we have ours in my car right now because, the weather's changing and, you're going to want to keep your basic needs met.
Well, you definitely want to try to stay as comfortable as possible because the more comfortable that you are, the clearer your thoughts are going to be. And if you have clear thoughts, then you can hopefully get yourself into a better situation, and be able to tackle whatever's in front of you instead of the situation dictating to you. You're able to more dictate to the situation. And having the proper clothes or having even a granola bar, and a bottle of water, I mean, it's better than nothing because if you're not thinking clearly, then the situation is going to overrun you. And I believe that that's what we witnessed in Atlanta last year more than anything was people that weren't thinking clearly. They weren't able to think because they were in panic mode. Once you get to that point, you're lost. I mean, the only thing you can think of is panic. And you can't think of ways to, put yourself in a better situation. Is there anything, either one of you or both of you, that you would like to say to someone that is new and to help them along as far as them taking that first step and moving in the right direction?
I want to say that there are a lot of world events and issues that we're witnessing right now that are making people more aware of the need to prepare. And I think that, everyone still has time to prepare, but, you should do it in a steadfast manner. There are a lot of issues that can help us better prepare and be more practical. And one of the things that I want to say is just start at the very beginning. Get a 2-week supply of food, get water supplies. I mean, that's going to be your main focus. If you don't have water, you're going to die. So ensure that you have ample amounts of water, food, just things to meet your basic needs, to maintain your body warmth, to help protect your family. Just make a plan. Start with the 2 weeks, add on as much as you can, and if you can't do it all at once, do it a little bit at a time. I've been preparing for about 7 years now, and I can honestly tell you there would have been no way that I could have bought everything all at once. Just do what you can. Don't go into debt over it. Welcome to the preparedness community. We're a great bunch of folks, and it's great because so many people have so much to say and advice to give, because, you know, if there's one more prepared person, it's one less person that, you know, we have to help if there's a SHTF event.
Absolutely. Just start. That is my advice. A lot of people get paralyzed and overwhelmed, and they say they don't know where to start. It isn't even so important where you start as it is that you start.
And
just take some steps. Yep.
Thinking and acting are two different things.
True.
Well, all right. Well, I certainly appreciate all of your time today, ladies. It has been wonderful speaking with you. We've been talking with Tess Pennington, who is the author of The Prepper's Blueprint, and she is the publisher of ReadyNutrition.com. Miss Daisy Luther, The Organic Prepper, and her website is theorganicprepper.ca. And you can check out all their work over at their website, and you can also find it at thedailycoin.org, because I post a lot of their material. And we certainly appreciate everybody tuning in, and always leave comments below. Thank you, ladies, very much for your time.
Thank you
so much. Thank you.
And we'll talk with you soon.